Her wrists tremble, Your Honor, my father said, pounding the table hard enough to rattle the water glasses. That woman is a drug addict, and she is unfit to control my mother's estate. His voice boomed through the probate courtroom in Boston, while I sat straight-backed in a charcoal suit, studying the polished wood in front of me as if it belonged to someone else's life. My name is Mara Ellison, and for years my family had treated me like a ruined footnote. That morning, they believed they were finally burying me for good. My sister Claire dabbed her eyes with a dry tissue and leaned into her husband, Grant, who wore a watch so bright it looked expensive from a distance and fake up close. They had spent weeks feeding the story that I had stolen pain pills and manipulated my grandmother, Vivian, into changing her will. Their lawyer slid a thick envelope toward the clerk and projected glossy medical records across the monitors. Oakview Recovery Center, 30-day holds, severe dependency, psychiatric instability. My own attorney glanced at me, pale with panic. I did not blink. Oakview was a shell company, and the billing format on those papers matched a laundering network I had spent 6 years tracing for the Treasury. Judge Lillian Rowe read in silence while Claire performed grief in the gallery. She stopped on page 4, tapped a signature block with one finger, and looked over her glasses at my father. Mr. Ellison, she said, voice like a blade. Are you certain you know what your daughter does for a living? He laughed too loudly and told the court I was a clerical nobody who could not keep an apartment. That was the mistake. I rose, walked to the center aisle, and told them that 12 years earlier, when I was 22, he had thrown me out after finding a prescription bottle from an emergency room visit for exhaustion and a panic attack. He had called it addiction, spread the lie through the family, and burned my discharge papers in front of everyone. The room went still. I kept talking. I told Judge Rowe that my father had not only destroyed my reputation, he had raided my college fund. While I was sleeping in libraries and transit stations after he cut me off, Vivian had quietly hired a private investigator. She found the truth. My father was drowning in debt, and he had emptied my custodial account to help finance Claire's wedding and keep Grant's business alive. I held up bank statements and wire receipts, showing the transfers to a country club, a bridal salon in Manhattan, and a caterer. Claire burst out that I was lying, but Grant's face drained white because he knew a paper trail when he saw one. I was not done. In the lonely years after he threw me out, Vivian had pulled me back from the edge. She paid for my certification exams, my master's degree, and my forensic accounting training. By the time she died, I was a senior investigator with federal access and a habit of following money until the truth screamed. When Claire's viral video started calling me unstable, I ignored the noise and opened my government laptop. The forged Oakview records carried an employer identification number. I ran it. The shell corporation was Grant's. The fake rehabilitation center was the exact entity he used to launder investor money in his collapsing hedge fund scheme. He had handed me the smoking gun. Grant and my father had not filed the injunction to protect Vivian's legacy. They had filed it because Vivian had left me 80% of her estate and named me executor while locking them out entirely. They needed to discredit me before the probate hearing, so Grant manufactured rehab invoices, and my father delivered them with tears. Judge Rowe saw the fraud almost at once. When she ordered the clerk to confirm the filings, federal investigators arrived in the hallway with my badge, because I had already called them. The look on Grant's face when the courtroom learned I was a forensic auditor with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network was almost worth the years of hunger. My father finally understood that the daughter he called broken had been the one tracking his downfall. Claire started crying for real when the marshals asked for Grant's phone. The judge revoked the injunction, referred the forged records to the U.S. attorney, and froze every account tied to Grant's company. Vivian's final letter, which I read aloud before leaving the stand, said only this: "Let them think you are nothing. That is when a wolf survives." I walked out of the courthouse alone, but not defeated. This time I owned the story, the money, and the truth. Outside, the wind off the Charles cut through my coat, but for the first time in years I felt warm. I had not won by shouting or pleading. I had won by waiting, by learning, by refusing to disappear. My family had tried to make me a ghost. Instead, I became evidence.